Welcome back to the Rent Roll Queen podcast. I'm your host, Tarsi Taylor, and today's episode is sponsored by Reebok, the Real Estate Business Owners Conference. What happens when your staff go on leave? Can you fill those shoes really quickly? Today, I chat with Mark and Daniel from Buckmaster Hawky about how recruiting fast can help your business. Welcome to the show, Daniel. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thanks, Tarsi.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming on. Would you kindly introduce yourselves?
Daniel?
Sure. So my name's Daniel. I run the temp desk at Buckmaster Hawky, and we also do business brokering. Been doing this for a long time now. So coming up to 20 years, about 5 years in recruitment. Love it. Love talking about property all day long, which is great.
Awesome, Mark.
My name's Mark Appleby. I'm director for Buckmaster Hawky. I've been recruiting for the real estate industry in Victoria since 2001 and bought the business off the founder in 2007. And then, because I'm an agent's rep, I'm able to act as an agent for the broking business as well.
Amazing. So guys, you would have seen a lot of stuff go down, especially because we've got a labour shortage at the moment. Can you please give us an insight on how you help businesses with recruitment?
Well, we provide people solutions, Tarsi, temporary, contract and permanent. But I think temporary you are quite fascinated with regards to how that actually works. I might let Daniel elaborate on that since that's his core, that's his baby.
That'll be awesome because the reason why I like temporary so much is because a lot of business owners look at recruitment as in a person to be in a position, but not thinking outside the square of, hey, how can we do this a little bit better while maybe we're looking for somebody?
Yeah, so often people think about temp as it's reactive and somebody's unexpectedly gone on sick leave or resigned or something's happened and we need somebody today.
Yeah. And
you can do that for temp. It's not a problem. The good agencies are usually a lot more proactive. They're thinking weeks and months in advance. And when they know that people are on annual leave for 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time, they're essentially cherry picking the best temps and reserving them months in advance. So that way they get the same temps sometimes back and there's less induction. But it usually is to essentially avoid stress in departments so you're not reactive and all of a sudden everyone's workload doubles because John Smith is not there this week.
Yeah.
And, we need you to cover that role and do your job. And so it increases stress and increases potential resignations and loss management.
Yeah, right. So it's a way of mitigating it basically on how to run your business more effectively.
Yeah, and also you sometimes get people with fresh ideas. So they've worked in multiple other real estate agencies for usually very quick periods of time. So they adapt quickly.
Yeah.
And generally what you find is department heads and directors at the end of the temp assignment go, hey, John, how do we go? Are we better than the other guys? What can we do? Are we using Property Me to its nth degree? Anything that you'd suggest that we could do better? And so usually they're picking their brains at the end, which is good. And so
I love the idea that, when somebody goes on leave or maternity leave or something like that or holiday or, they're sick, that you can call a temp in straight away and actually have that role filled because you think about it, right? A lot of businesses have already planned out their routine inspections and so forth, and then their property manager's not there, and what happens to all of that? So,
well, they get COVID or something happens instantly, and they said, well, our routines are already pre-booked in advance, and they're all scheduled, and for us to call and reschedule all those inspections, and it's a lot more work, so you can get somebody in and go, we need somebody for 3 days on those days at that time. And they hit the ground running. So
with these temps and everything, and obviously you do normal recruitment as well. It's not just not just temp. So when you have somebody that comes in and they're filling that role, do you have different temps or different people in different specialist fields? So in other words, like they know how to use console, or they know how to use Property Me. Like how does it all work?
Yeah, so you can be specific as much as you want. So typical director will call me and say, I need somebody for 3 days. He uses Inspection Express. They must have a car and they got to live local. And I literally need them to hit the ground running. And so I'd go through the database. Some people temp for various different reasons. I get this question a lot. It's like, why would people want to temp? And for various reasons. So a lot of them are studying. They don't want a full-time job.
Yeah, right.
Some of them are about to travel. They're about to go overseas. They're about to have a baby. They're semi-retired, or actually just don't want the, I suppose, long-term permanent role. They don't want to be involved in office politics. They don't want to get invited to the Friday night drinks. They just go, I want to do my job and go home, right?
Yeah,
and so people I just want a 9-to-5 job. I don't want to be doing just crazy stuff. So they like the temp. They're in and out. I'd probably have 20 or 30 career temps on the books that are just roll from one to the next. They always get offered a permanent job. Oh, you're great, fantastic. Would you like to work for us? You guys are great, but no thanks. And so they just roll to the next one, and they take their time off. So they ring me and they go, Daniel, on the whatever date, I'm going to Gold Coast for 3 weeks and I'm not available, and that's fine. So it works for them.
Yeah, right.
So it gives them flexibility. It allows them to adapt to different environments, and good temps get to pick and choose too, right? So they get to say, I will and I won't work for them, just like agencies say, we want the best temps. And so the more notice generally you give me, the better the caliber and availability and match it is. So it's very specific. A lot of people just go, oh, Daniel, I rang you an hour ago, and how come you haven't got me a temp yet? Because I just assume I've got this people on standby, right? And I go, and usually most roles I'll fill within 24 hours. But it's a lot of the banking and knowing your temps really well, and knowing the agencies really, really well about what they do and don't want.
Yeah, what was really interesting with what you just said there is some temps will say, I don't want to work in that business again, which is quite scary too, isn't it?
Yeah. So the feedback I then give back to directors to say, hey, mate, here's something you could have done better, or induction. Because yes, temps hit the ground running, but you also want to set expectations and say, this is the way we like our condition reports to be done. This is the level of detail, photos, etc. And some agencies are different. I had one the other day that they took 1,200 photos for a 4-bedroom house, and that was unacceptable. And so they wanted 2,000 photos as a minimum. That was their expectation.
Right, yep.
And I've got some other clients that say, how come you took so long? You were there for 2 hours, and we want you back here in the office in 45 minutes. And so setting the expectation is really important. But so
seasoned temps that are, like Daniel said, we've got like lifestyle permanent temps. They're very, very good at adapting to different environments, conditions, cultures, expectations and things, and they can hit the road running. Because if they've been in and out of so many different assignments, they know how to adapt quickly, or all the softwares and apps and those sorts of things. So and we also have an expectation, because a temporary employee is a Buckmaster Hawky employee. They're on our payroll.
Right.
So they're representing our brand when they're out in a client's environment. Yes, they're under supervision of our client, but at the end of the day, they're our staff member. So if you have a temp that was to do something to upset a landlord, it's a bad reflection on the temp and our business as a brand. So we have an expectation when we onboard someone who's new to temp to say, this is how we expect you to conduct yourself and behave. Don't buy into office politics, get involved in it sort of stuff. Get in, head down, get on with the role. But we also have temps that are on the temp desk in between permanent gigs as well, Tarsi. So they might hate where they are, resign, I want out of here, I'm going to go temp for a bit. And then quite often, as Daniel's already pointed out, they get offered permanent work, or they get a bit of try before you buy, because they go on a assignment and go, oh, I love it here. And then they'll client will around and go, oh, we love Tarsi, are they available for permanent work? And then, they literally, we handle the offer and they go off our payroll one day and on to the clients the next.
That's incredible.
Try before you buy, we call it.
Yeah, I actually really like that idea, because you get, sadly, in our industry, and, I'm not putting anyone down, but you can get really good property managers and poor quality property managers. And they're the ones that probably need more nurturing. They didn't really get that at another business. So you could possibly take, what was considered a poor quality and put them in the right environment, and then they absolutely thrive. So that takes me to my next question when it comes to permanent recruitment. How do you guys basically do that for a client to get them the right person in that job?
Okay, client visits, we've just done a couple up here since we've come up to Brisbane. They really are the key to understanding a company's business, their structure, their culture, who's who in the zoo, what types of people that work out well. And when you do that meeting in face-to-face, you get to see their environment, see how people dress, the whole thing. So we basically sit down with the client and we go through their org chart. We talk about their business, training, functions, try to get why you'd be an employer of choice, what sort of people typically work out well here, what backgrounds have they come from, all that sort of stuff. And then we get the brief on the vacancy that there is to fill, and we get what we call their wish list. So we say, tell us all the things that you really want to see and tell us the things you're prepared to compromise on. Might be softwares, for example.
Yes.
And then we talk about the fit and the ideal candidate and what they might look like. So then we come away with a very thorough brief. So getting all that information helps us then recruit for the recruitment drive in terms of sourcing the right people.
Yes.
And then we interview the people and we see that they've got one head and not green hair and what have you. And then we go through a candidate's work history, then their wish list before we talk too much about the client we're recruiting for. So then the candidate's telling us what they really want rather than telling you, the hiring manager, what you want to hear.
Yes.
So if they go, I want to work for, a big company with a big property management team that's all tech savvy and they have Friday drinks and stuff, if that happens to be the brief of the client we've got, well, bang, there's a match right there. Then we'll go through the experience, then talk about things like their salary expectations, management style that gets the best out of them, and all that intel. And then if they're a match for the role that we've got the brief for, then we promote the person to the client or the hiring manager. So we look at it as we don't send resumes, Tarsi. We talk to you about a candidate and a person and how they come across, because a resume is just a piece of paper that shows a work record of where you've worked. It doesn't talk about your personality, how you present, how you come across. It doesn't do any of that. So then we'll speak to a client. We go, hey, we've got Daniel here. He's got 3 years PM experience. We give them, an overview of how Daniel's personality is, how he comes across, what he's looking for, their salary range. So by the time that they agree to interview, it's not a cold interview with you having to start from scratch, because you've got a whole bunch of information from us, your recruiter, before you've met them. And we've already thoroughly briefed the candidate on the role, the dollars, the Saturdays, whatever it actually is, softwares. So the candidate's already got a whole heap of information.
Yeah.
So it's a warm interview when they get together. And then we say to our clients, candidates, don't talk about money, because the interview should be about you, the candidate, the role, the environment, because money can get awkward if the candidate prices themselves out of the market and the client just might switch off unnecessarily. And us as recruiters, that's our job, to try and make sure that the clients pay market rates in keeping with their experience, so they don't overpay or underpay a candidate.
Yes.
So we manage those expectations with the candidates and that, and we say, listen, the salary should be at the business end, and we handle that, so it's not part of the interview process.
Well, once you take out the money, right, you've actually got a relationship that starts to form.
Yeah.
And sometimes candidates get nervous in the interview and they say, well, how much money do you want? And they sort of go, I don't want to say too much. And so if they have that separate conversation with us in a non-stressful, I suppose, environment, they can say, well, what about this and what about that? And this is important to me, might be work from home, or I need to pick up kids at certain days, or that's probably more important, or I've got a pre-booked holiday in advance and I want to negotiate all those things in the contract. It's sort of in a bit more relaxed environment. They can sort of say, well, is this normal? Should I ask this? Is it not? And we can sort of coach them through that process. And
That's great.
But also equally, Tarsi, getting feedback from the client after the interview. If the candidate's not right, we just say to the client, be brutal, tell us what's not right, so we don't send you someone similar.
Yeah, right.
But coming back to the very first part of the journey, the more thorough the brief and understanding you have of the company and the culture and what the expectations are, it's easy to get the round peg in the round hole.
Yeah, and what I love about that, you're also eliminating the time factor of trying to employ, because it can be quite lengthy and very stressful for both the candidate and the business owner.
Yeah. Well, especially if you've got a CCAD, and then depending on, CCAD's a little bit like for the job act, the active job seeker, not the passive. We've got a lot of candidates in our database that are passive.
Yeah.
And then you might have, from the client has their vacancy, and they might be waiting through a whole heap of applications. Some are appropriate, some aren't. So the time that they take to do that, they could be out listing and selling a house that more than pays for our fee.
Yes.
And that's what we sort of say to our clients if they sort of get what do you call it, fee phobia, if you like.
Yeah.
It's an investment though, right? It's not an expense. And that's the like when you look at the time exchange, which, let's face it, in today's society, we exchange time for money. That's the currency exchange. When you start looking at how much time you get back, that's how much you've actually saved yourself versus the investment.
And it widens the pool of available people that are, not necessarily just in what they've got access to.
Yeah.
And also allows them to sort of, I suppose, ask questions about, is this realistic, is it not? Should I hire this person or not? This is my long-term business growth
Goal.
plans.
Yep.
And so you go, is that person going to fit into it? That person might say, look, I'm going to Germany in 2 years' time, and I just want something for 2 years. And so knowing that information, I suppose, that's part of our interview process.
Yeah.
There's 4 pages of questions that we go through with each candidate before they get to the client. Not only just salary, but it's more management style.
Yeah.
What do you work best with? And we talk to them about, what gets the best out of you? What are your, strengths, weaknesses, all of that. But it's more, what are you wanting to do next? Everyone generally is asking what's next. And so
Yeah, right.
if that gets them there,
Yeah.
so yeah.
What I like about that as well is you're actually asking the candidate, what are your goals?
It's a big thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
which
So-
no one really does. It's like,
And some people, are happy to stay in their role. They might say, look, I'm happy to be a career receptionist. I don't want career progression. I like to do my job and go home. I don't want to manage staff. I don't want to be a big boss and have all the responsibility. That's my career path that I've chosen. And so that's okay. We would, again, disclose that to the client.
It's different calls, different horses. Like our why, we call it, is to facilitate a candidate's career aspirations and keeping with a client's staffing needs.
Yes.
So asking candidates what's important to them about environments, career progression, all those sorts of things. Because in real estate, your business, like in most businesses, your business is as good as your people.
Yeah,
so
it is, 100%.
If we get it right, that staff member can be there for years. They might become department head. They might get an equity opportunity to buy in. So in my tenure, I've had people from entry level I've placed that are now real estate business owners.
That's fantastic.
And they come back to me for staff. So,
Yeah.
to see that journey and you being party to that, that means we know, okay, well, we're doing a reasonable job.
Yep.
No, that's fantastic. And then you guys have your brokerage arms. So what made you branch out into brokerage?
Well, Buckmaster Hawky used to do brokering back in pre-2000.
Yeah.
So the founders, Peter and Pam Newton, started the recruitment business, and Peter Newton was doing the business broking. So he sold a lot of real estate rent rolls around Victoria.
Yes.
He retired into the year 2000, and Daniel's fully licensed. So we thought there's an opportunity here because the relationships and the sensitive information that we're privy to with our recruitment relationships, because it's always directors or decision makers that are talking about, oh, look, if you know of a rent roll, I'm up for buying, or I'm thinking of selling, or what have you. So it just made sense for us to relaunch the broking business, which we did earlier this year in 2024. Yeah. And with Daniel having a license coming from real estate enabled us to do so, and me being agent's rep means that I can do it as well. So it's just another service adding or benefit to the client,
yes,
that does complement the recruitment business relationships, because it's not like the people that we're talking to who is Buckmaster Hawky, they're already dealing with us.
Yes.
Oh, you do brokering now, so away we go. But we have to respect the line in the sand where we might be recruiting for a client who's a vendor who's selling their rent roll. So obviously none of their staff are aware the rent roll's for sale, and any of the candidates that we're sourcing for that company, they can't be privy to that information either.
Yes.
So we have to respect that confidentiality line in the sand, which we have to manage, appropriately, because the last thing the vendor wants is for their staff to get wind that they're selling.
100%. Oh, it's so important to keep that confidential, and it's sad it is, because you do want transparency, but at the same time, confidentiality is key until it basically goes unconditional, and then you can move it along into that next part of the process. And I guess for business owners, a big question then is if you're selling a rent roll and you know that rent roll is for sale and they need a candidate placed, would it be for them to go down the temp role, or is it like better for them because they're going to try and move that person onto a new role within the buyer? Like, how does it work?
We just had that situation.
Oh, great.
I'll let Daniel
Great
explain.
question.
Yeah, it was a great question.
So, yeah, and in that particular scenario, so we had 2 property managers in there, and essentially we did both. So I had one temp in there that wanted the flexibility, and coming up to Christmas, they wanted the time off and all of that. And so we kept that person as temp. And the other one said, yep, no worries, I'm happy to do a contract. Both were happy to stay up until settlement and past retention as well.
Yeah.
But we also kept the buyer of the rent roll involved in the process and allowed them buy-in. So they might say, well, maybe we do want to bring that person across, or we don't. Maybe we're not sure. We want to see how they perform and do they fit into the culture of the new, our
the current
business.
Yep.
And so we kept them involved in the process, got those guys in a room together, and then they sort of chatted about that, and we essentially came up with a solution that both parties were happy with. So we didn't want to put somebody in a role for a permanent role if, the new buyer said, well, I actually don't want that PM, and then they still in a probationary period, and then they get terminated, or straight after probation, there's a redundancy. So we wanted to make sure that all parties essentially had the option of what they wanted to do, and that just happened to work in there. But I think communication, really just giving everyone the opportunity
it was less
to have
risk, wasn't it? Because they're on the temp desk, so it's not like someone resigned from a permanent role, and then they go into the situation and we're aware of it, and they turn around and go, well, would have been nice to have none, or I wouldn't have resigned where I was if I knew I was potentially going to be out of a job. So I think the scenario we had with this most recent one is probably ideal both for the vendor and the buyer and the candidate, because they know, well, I'm on the temp desk anyway, so I'm not in a permanent secure role I have to resign from. And as we did with this, one of them went on a fixed term contract, so they had to become privy as to why this was happening. The temps had to respect the confidentiality of it, but that worked out beautifully because no one had to resign from a permanent role to go into the business.
And it meant that she was fully staffed up until settlement, relationships kept with the existing landlords, potential loss managements were minimised, all of that. So I think, it just comes down to communication. And
it definitely does, because I have seen it where they literally hire somebody and all of a sudden the rent roll's then gone under contract and it goes across to a new buyer, and this poor person that's been put in this position had no idea and now has to transition into either a new role or is being let go. So, and it's just so sad to see that, because as business owners, it is our job to lead. And that's not leadership.
No. Well, I guess the message there is, if you're thinking of selling, temp. If you've got a staffing need, if you get a resignation and you've just listed your business for sale with a broker, then I think temp is the perfect solution.
Yeah.
It's also good, a lot of our clients come to us before they're thinking of selling the rent roll, and they say, hey, I'm 6 months away, what should I do? And so we get people in there to audit files, compliance, do due diligence on themselves. So before it goes to the market, and then a buyer comes along and does due diligence and then says, well, I found all these things, and now I want to start to negotiate, or then it's, we need to clean up really quickly, and we didn't realise that all these authorities weren't signed by landlords, whatever. And so
it happens.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you've said it a million times.
I just want to say that. It really does happen.
Well, that also brings us to super temps.
Yeah. So,
super temps.
So super temps, big thing that we do, and it's essentially ex-department heads, directors of real estate agencies that are now semi-retired or very high skill set, can essentially talk one-on-one with a director and say, hey buddy, you need to do this, did you realise your PM hasn't been doing whatever, right, hasn't done condition reports for 3 years and you thought they were all done, and so it allows them to talk one-on-one with a director. And so we get a lot of what we call projects. So I get the super temp and the director in a room for an hour, closed door, and say, okay, tell me everything you want to do before you sell this rent roll. Sometimes I don't want to sell. Sometimes it might be, I don't know, my department head's just left and I don't know the state of my business.
Yes.
Can you come in and do an audit for me and tell me where I'm at? Or I'm not experienced at, we need a new website, or wherever it might be. And so can you come in? Here's the 10 things I want fixed with my business. And then that super temp will go away for 24 hours and write a plan. And so they'll go, okay, your 10 things, I can fix 8 of them. 2 of them are not my skill set. It might be website design or whatever. But I can outsource it. I know a really good website guy. I'll monitor that project to the budget. The other 18 things, I can knock it all out. You got 400 routines inspections outstanding.
Yes.
I'll get somebody else to do that because you're paying me this much and a routine inspection is this much. And essentially, at the end of 2 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever the period is, and for the super temp, they might say, I don't want to work 5 days a week, but I want to work 3 days a week. But they've got the skill set. It's that level. And
it's
so
a little bit
well.
like if you're thinking of selling, it's like having like a pre-robe with the inspection of your rent roll, if you like. So you get someone to come and look under the bonnet, but you're not necessarily paying consultant level fees for experts that do those sorts of things, and not to take away from them. It's more of a lower level look on an hourly rate basis or on a project basis. It's sort of going in, it's looking at the nuts and bolts of things that might come undone when a buyer's DD is done.
Yeah, well, the onus is on the buyer to get their due diligence done and to get it done properly. So that's really important.
But also it might be off the back of some consulting you've done, Tarsi, where you might go in and you say, look, your rent roll's got a bunch of things that need fixing up. So we send our temps in to go and do the that in the trenches to fix it all up. So then the rent roll is sale ready.
Yeah, and being sale ready is so important. And I am going to say this: I have been in a rent roll where 400 properties hadn't had a routine inspection in over 12 months. So that was not a lie. That actually does happen, and I can be witness to that because I've been in the back end of it. So it's really important, like, if you are going to sell, to have those conversations where it is, get the due diligence done, then get somebody in to fix it, make sure it's all beautiful before it goes on the market, and then that way you're not losing money.
Yeah, and it maximises the multiple that they're going to get and smooths the process, minimise the due diligence period. It keeps everybody really happy, and essentially the buyer goes, okay, great, everything's clean and, fantastic, I want to buy that rent roll, and you start to create...
less negotiating power when they find a rent roll that's in good nick.
That's right. So, and I love the fact that, you've got the super temps, you've got the normal temps, and then you've got your permanents or contractors that can actually go in. And actually, what I love the most of it is the time factor that the business owner gets back to, like what you guys said, go and sell a house and earn more commission, or go and find new properties, to bring onto your rent roll while knowing you're going to be able to service them, whereas you can't actually do that when the business doesn't have the manpower behind it.
I mean, we do this day in, day out. This is what we do. Like, your expertise as a real estate agent is listing, selling and managing properties. So a lot of our clients over the years, Tarsi, have been... We're like an extension. I'll use the word HR cautiously because we're not human resources from a legal standpoint, sense and fair work. We're not. We're recruiters, but they've relied on us for years to provide them with staff that fit their business. And some of our relationships some of them are 30, 40 years old.
Amazing,
So we know what works in their business, and they rely on us. So it's not a case of them begrudgingly pay a fee. They happily pay it because they don't have to go through the whole process. They understand we know their business well, and we only send them candidates that are going to be of interest to them. So the time they're saving is immense, and then the placement, and then because we know them so well, 9 times out of 10 it'll work out. Now, there's always the human being element.
Always.
Which we can't guarantee humans, which is why we have a replacement benefit.
Yeah, right. Okay, so you guarantee, like, basically if that person doesn't work out, you'll then go find another candidate that does. So that investment basically that they've paid can be double, like, as in, like, they've got double investment.
It's like insurance.
So it's great.
It's like insurance. It's not like if you sold a house and then the buyer said to the agent 3 months later, I don't like the house, can you resell it for me for free? No agent's going to do that. But in recruiters, that's effectively what we have to do. Yeah. So the candidate doesn't work out for whatever reason within the replacement benefit period, and we turn around and recruit the whole role again for no additional fee.
Yeah, amazing.
And that's how replacement benefits
But you're
work.
still saving time for the business owner. And the key is time, because we all know real estate business owners are extremely time poor. Any business owner is extremely time poor. You're working as much as you possibly can. You've got all the expenses that you still have to cover. You also have to manage the business. You're trying to be in a leadership role. Like, there's so many aspects to running a real estate business. But having the right people in your, what I call an A team, which I would call recruiters as part of an A team.
Thank you.
Well, it is, right? Because I want to grow my business. Well, I don't know who to, like, I don't have the time to sit there and go and put a seek ad on. And
the smart business owners have that mindset, Tarsi. They get it. and they realise where their limitations are, and they see the value in what a good recruiter does, which is why they willingly engage.
Yeah.
A lot of them also use this for advisory sort of type stuff. So they might say, I've got this really great person in my business. They do far and beyond what's part of the normal job description. What should I pay this person? Or what sort of enticements, or do I give them profit share or equity or something? I really want this business to, person to be in my business long term, but they are not a typical operations manager or general manager. They go above and beyond. And so a lot of it, they come to us, a lot of them ask for our quarterly salary summary that we do.
Right.
And it shows every role from entry level to, state manager level.
Yeah.
We update that quarterly, but that's very valuable for a lot of hiring managers, people who do performance reviews.
It's like a salary Bible.
Yeah, and so,
I love that, because a lot of the times you don't know what to kind of pay somebody, and you hire someone and all of a sudden they're exceptional. And you don't want to lose them. You want to reward them, but you're like, where do I start? And how do I do this? What are the KPIs I should put around things as well? So having that extra advice as a service is beneficial.
And it's also about what motivates the person from incentives. So money's important.
Yes.
And it's up there. For some people, it's not always about that. It could be flexibility, time and lieu. It could be working from home. It could be training. It could be a number of things, or like a step up in terms of responsibility if they want to head down the managerial path of like being a department manager. So I guess it just depends on the individual that you're looking at, you're trying to retain.
Yeah.
Well, there's so much you guys can definitely do for business owners. And now you're in Victoria for business brokering and the recruitment and advice, and you're also in Queensland for the advice and the recruitment at this point in time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add all of your details into the caption, and anybody who would like to reach out to you can do so, if that would be okay for you.
Absolutely. Welcome any phone calls, any questions anyone has, we're here.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us, Tarsi.
Really appreciate it.
Thank
and
you.
we enjoy the warm weather up here too, which is nice.
It's very hot up
It's
here.
humid.
We're not
humid.
complaining, so we love it, so it's good. So no, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.